Here is a question that can be asked in many ways. Why is C and D a whole tone, but E and F a semitone? Or, why does the piano keyboard look like this and not like this? Or the holy grail of all music questions, why do we have 12 notes? Whenever you ask a question concerning the note system of Western music, the answer is probably overtones. Western music is obsessed with overtones. The overtone series is a series of frequencies based on a fundamental tone. The frequency of each overtone is simply the frequency of the fundamental times the number of each overtone. The easiest place to illustrate overtones is a string of a string instrument, such as a guitar. When you pluck a string, the fundamental frequency of that string is how fast it vibrates along its entire length. But in addition to that, both halves of the string also vibrate, and since they are half of the length of the entire string, they vibrate in a frequency that's twice as high as the fundamental, that is, the fundamental times 2. In addition to that too, all thirds of the string also vibrate, and since they are a third of the length of the entire string, they vibrate in a frequency that's the fundamental times 3. In addition to that too, all fourths also vibrate, and their frequency is the fundamental times 4, and the road goes ever on and on. This means that the ratio between two adjacent overtones gets smaller and smaller as we climb up the series, even though the numerical difference between the frequencies is always the same. We don't have to climb the series very high though to find a full major chord. In fact, the 4th, 5th and 6th overtones give us just that, and together they sound like this. Having one chord is good, but obviously not enough. The number of usable notes and chords can easily be increased by generating just 2 more overtone-based chords that are related to the original chord like this. The lowest note of the original chord is the same as the highest note of one of the new chords. Also, the highest note of the original chord is the same as the lowest note of the other new chord. Now we have 7 unique notes. Doubling and halving the frequency of a note doesn't really change it, so we can rearrange these 7 notes within the span of an octave. Here's how this set of notes sounds without moving anything first. This is how it sounds after doubling the frequency of the lowest note. This is how it sounds after doubling the frequency of the now lowest note. And finally, this is how it sounds after halving the frequency of the highest note. Just for the sake of completion, let's also repeat the first note an octave higher. Let's name these notes C, D, E, F, G, A, B and high C. The scale has 7 notes. That plus the octave repetition of the first note is of course 8 notes, which is why that interval is named after the word octa, 8. Even though it admittedly doesn't quite match with the visuals here, it matches with how we hear it. The distance between E and F and B and high C is half of all the other distances. This way we have now generated a scale where the variable distance between adjacent notes is naturally inherent and not a relic of history of arbitrary music development. In addition to this, the bigger distances can of course be split in half, so that the octave will be filled with steps as big as the steps between E and F and B and high C. This gives a total of 12 unique notes. This is reflected in the shape of the piano keyboard. The white keys stand for C, D, E, F, G, A and B, and the black keys stand for the notes that were added between. It must be noted though that when a major scale is generated this way, through overtones, the bigger steps aren't exactly identical to each other, and the small steps aren't either. The differences, however, are so small that rounding them to be identical works. That rounding is called equal temperament. The sound of a major chord according to the overtone series is a little different from the sound of a chord according to equal temperament. And in classical music, whenever possible, the sound of the overtone series is what is being aimed for.